All right. Okay. So now. Okay. So we apparently are streaming, I think. I think. I don't know
Can you send a
because
link?
I'm trying to get it actually. I'm also trying to see myself. It was actually yes, it is working. It is working. Actually, just try saying something. I'm also trying to see myself. It was
Hello?
actually yes.
Hello?
Okay,
Checking?
good. Let me give a moment. I will send the stream to my friend, and he will confirm for us if it's working. I am sending you the link.
Okay.
I am sending you the link.
Looks like it's working.
I am sending you the link.
Looks like it's working. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. I just needed a confirmation that it is in fact working. And this seems to be now working. I think we are live.
All right, I'm going to share the link and then I'm ready to go.
Okay, good. I don't know if this video capture is the way it should be. I think like there might be a little bit too much info for all of this, but give me a second because there should be a way to cut some parts of it. In Streamlabs. I mean, I could just. I don't really have to. As long as we have the audio set up, it's fine. I don't really even need the screen capture, honestly.
Yeah, I don't need. I mean, if you're not going to be on video, I don't need.
Yeah. That would require. No, I'm not. No way I'm also dealing with that. No. I'm just glad that this managed to actually work. So.
The link and then I'm ready to.
To cut some work. So. Okay. Right. Okay. So now we're just seeing black screen. Okay. I might add some picture to it actually, just to just to be. Okay. So now we're just seeing black screen. Just to be sure that there is something to keep your eyes on. But this is for the purpose of a conversation, not for the purpose of looking at a pretty picture. So. This probably shouldn't work like this, but you know what? Fuck it. Monkey. Okay. I think this is fine.
Works for me.
Yep, this is working now. Okay. Good. Are we ready then? It's the time.
It is 6:31. We're ready to go. I think we're jumping in. M&M and Jakyl J talk crypto.
And I am M&M, and ours is a chance meeting. We miraculously found each other in a YouTube comment section of a video by Folding Ideas, which caused quite the stir. And I don't really know why we're doing this, and frankly, after trying to set it up for 3 weeks, I've forgotten what we actually wanted to talk about, so maybe refresh my memory.
Well, we were having a spirited argument about whether or not NFTs were evil, and generally I was surprised by how many people are upset about NFTs and how upset they are, and we got into a pretty heated debate, and then we started slinging some insults, and it became clear that there were some pretty strong feelings on both sides, and I was really curious to get a better understanding of why people are so upset at the idea of NFTs, because in my life, they have represented a source of hope that I haven't really encountered before. So I'm curious to hear more about your perspective and what your concerns are.
Sorry, excuse me.
I watched the entire Folding Ideas video, and I thought it was pretty well done. I appreciated the concerns that it highlighted, and I think that people should be concerned, but I think the people who are concerned are also the people who should be most proactive in the space, and I
should they be?
I don't understand what the problem is, so please tell me.
Okay. So I guess it would be best to start from the top, just as Dan Olson from Folding Ideas started from the top, or rather from the very bottom, actually, from what NFTs, where do even NFTs come from, and where they come from is the blockchain. They are essentially a form of cryptocurrency. I don't know if you are aware of this, but the conversation that was going on in that comment section was mutating rapidly. And I myself, after watching that video, and after having many more conversations like the one I've had with you in that YouTube comment section, I've done a lot of research into this space, and I've noticed a few things. So correct me if I'm wrong, because you are more of an expert on this than I am. Is it true that essentially every single NFT is a form of cryptocurrency?
No.
What's the difference then between an NFT and, say, Bitcoin?
An NFT is a non-fungible token, which means that it's unique, and it can represent anything. It doesn't contain cryptocurrency. It isn't a cryptocurrency.
I'm asking from the standpoint of the technology. What's the difference between an NFT and a Bitcoin?
Oh, that's beyond the scope of my understanding. There's so many differences between the different cryptocurrencies themselves. But an NFT is a digital title, and a cryptocurrency is fungible, right? It's one Bitcoin is the same as the next.
No.
Yeah.
No. You're thinking about fungibility in a not in a way that NFTs actually use the thing, because maybe you said that this is beyond your knowledge, but after doing some research, this isn't actually beyond my knowledge. So I will try to explain this, because NFTs are non-fungible, yes. And NFTs are technically unique. And they are unique because they represent a receipt on a ledger. They are unique because every single transaction on a blockchain is unique. Yes, what gives them value is not that non-fungibility. What gives them value is their limited amount, in addition to that non-fungibility. So it's not just that every single NFT is unique, because if it was just that, then that would not really matter. What is even more important is that in addition to that non-fungibility, you also have a set of, say, 10,000 NFTs. And there's not going to be more. Like, if somebody mints a collection of somebody's art, then the assumption is that this is the collection of art. There's not going to be more. Like, you can't add more to this collection, because it's just this. And
you mean on OpenSea?
Yes, on any platform, on any platform that you would want to create, even if you wanted to create a hypothetical platform, it still would not be possible because it's just baked into the system of how these things are minted on the blockchain. Understand that OpenSea is only a layer on top of the blockchain. The blockchain itself is where these things reside. OpenSea is merely a marketplace, essentially. Right. So, in that sense, a collection of 10,000 NFTs is indistinguishable from Bitcoin, because that's essentially what Bitcoin is. It's a limited quantity of currency that is mined through electrical processes using graphics cards, essentially. So essentially what an NFT is just a cryptocurrency with an image attached to it. That's it.
How is Bitcoin non-fungible?
Bitcoin, you mean that like how is every single Bitcoin different from another Bitcoin?
Yeah.
It's not really. Like Bitcoin.
So I think that's important. We should just establish that. I'm just saying.
Well, yes, I guess, but what does it really add to the technology? Like, how does it make NFTs different?
Well, it makes it different from a currency, right? Because the definition of a currency is a fungible asset.
Bitcoin,
one will be the same as the next. If I give you $1, you don't prefer that dollar to the other dollar that's in my wallet.
But this is also where the problem comes from, because despite the fact that cryptocurrency is called cryptocurrency, it's not really a currency, because a currency you use to exchange for goods and services. It's a subject to inflation, and it's being produced, and it's being exchanged, and it's being used, and its value is grounded in something. Nowadays, we don't use the gold standard anymore. We operate with fiat currency, and that's one of the big problems that crypto people have with currency in today's day and age. But that's how currency works. You're supposed to use it in exchange for goods and services. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies aren't really currencies because they're not really used in exchange for services and goods. They are assets. They are assets that you sell and buy for a specific amount of either other kinds of assets, so you can exchange your Bitcoin for your Ethereum or for your Dogecoin, and you can then change those assets in one way or another into actual currency by basically just exchanging it. But it's not really a currency. It's not that you, for example, you can change like USD into rubles, but that's not the same process by which you would turn Bitcoin into USD. Like, do you understand the difference? Like, it's the difference between changing one currency into another and between selling a house.
I'm not sure I follow that at all.
Okay. Yes. So, a Bitcoin, it's better to conceptualize a Bitcoin not as a currency, but as a piece of digital property. And you create that piece of digital property by mining it.
Right.
And the blockchain is what keeps the track of these coins.
Right. So it doesn't function primarily as a currency in most cases. It's a speculative asset.
Yes. And NFTs serve the exact same function. The only difference is that they have that additional layer of non-fungibility on every single NFT.
Right.
And that's basically it.
Sounds like we see eye to eye on that. What's the problem?
The problem, well, there's many problems. There's many problems.
What's the biggest problem for you personally?
The biggest problem
that you hated NFTs?
The biggest problem with me personally starts with the very core thing that defines NFTs and in fact defines crypto, and that's that non-fungibility. Because I don't know if you're aware of this. I have been made aware of this through the course of these previous couple of weeks, but Bitcoin was originally envisioned as digital gold. The idea behind Bitcoin was to create a digitally, artificially scarce asset that there would be a cap on and that would it would not be possible to create more of it. It's just a limited quantity, a limited supply. There's just going to be like 1 billion Bitcoin, or I don't know how many Bitcoin, what is the cap on Bitcoin, but there is a cap on how much Bitcoin is going to be created, and that's it. There's not going to be more Bitcoin, which by design turns Bitcoin into a deflationary currency if you were to use it as a currency.
Mm-hmm.
And it cannot be anything else. And what that means is that it automatically incentivizes people to not spend that currency, but instead hoard as much of it as possible, because its value is only going up. And you can probably already see what's going to happen to an economy that is based entirely on deflationary currency.
Well, we just saw a Bitcoin bubble burst, if that's what you mean.
Well, the bubble yes, the bubble bursts, the Bitcoin bubble bursting is something of a reoccurring event. It keeps happening again and again because people keep trying to resurrect Bitcoin, and it still has enough brain power behind it to keep coming back. But every next cycle of this is even more disastrous than the previous one. So the more Bitcoin rises in value, the more sharply it falls down during a burst of the bubble. And then it climbs up again and goes down again.
So volatility is the issue.
Well, it's not the volatility. It's that this volatility and this problem is baked into how Bitcoin is envisioned. It's about that limited capacity, that limited amount of how much of this can be. And this is the same problem that is inherent to NFTs. There's just a limited amount of your ape tokens. There's a limited amount of your virtual artwork. Even if you wanted to tie this into a marketplace for artists, and we're going to get to the problems with that, but if you just wanted to tie this into a marketplace for artists, then you also have that problem of just being a finite amount of work, and if they are these speculative assets, then they're just completely limited.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess, I think in time it's going to function more like a regular currency, and obviously there are other cryptos as well. I don't think that it was part of the vision of Bitcoin to generate volatility, but I don't know that for sure. I know that there are a lot of problems with the current system, and I think something has to change, and I think it should change here. Think about how much control the banks have. Like you said, the U.S. currency is no longer even connected to gold, so it's like,
and it's good that it's not connected to gold, because if it was connected to gold, then you'd end up with a deflationary economy which only serves the people who hoard the currency. And understand that what the problem you seem to think with the current thing is, like, you probably would tell me that inflation is a big problem, but like in those discussions, the thing that is very often omitted is that inflation is only a problem for normal people if wages aren't adjusted for inflation. Because what does it matter to you as a person who earns a minimum living wage that inflation is rising to 7% if your wage is adjusted for that inflation? If you get more money for your wage and you spend more money on products, what's the difference for you?
Perhaps you have a retirement fund?
Well, okay, so that can also be adjusted for inflation. Again.
Well, not really, because the contributions that have already been made are going to be finished.
I guess in a way, but from a perspective of a normal person, those contributions that have been made wouldn't appreciate in value so much so that it would make a difference. Mm-hmm. It would only really make a difference for somebody who is able to put in a lot of money into that retirement fund.
Right.
And if you worry about the financial well-being of people who are able to put that much money into their retirement fund, then I will tell you right now, don't worry, they'll find a way. They have a lot of money.
Well, the reality of the situation we're in is that It's capitalism, and it's global capitalism.
Yes.
And so if you want to win, you need to have money, or you need to take down capitalism. And I don't know about you, but I don't see anybody taking down capitalism.
I don't know, man.
And
we've been trying hard.
Even if we were to take down capitalism, probably it would require the use of Web3 technologies and cryptocurrency.
Why? What does Web3 and cryptocurrency and NFTs add to the project of dismantling global capitalism? Like, how would you even?
It's decentralized. You don't need a third party to verify transactions. That's so powerful. People don't understand.
No.
It can be whatever you need it to be,
Okay.
whatever utility you need. If you have an organic community of people who are thinkers, who are coders, who are social activists, whatever it is they do, if you can gather them together and convince them that Web3 technologies are not inherently a bad thing, then immediately you are liberated to apply them for the greater good. But if you assume that they have to be a bad thing, you don't get that opportunity. And it's not like this technology is going away. People will adopt it. It is better to be one of the adopters than one of the people who is digging their heels in. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but let me sort of dismantle that myth here, because for early adopters, the problem is that you're talking about this currency being decentralized, but it's not really decentralized. It's only decentralized in the sense that it's not in a single storage room where you can put all the archives on. But just because the data on the blockchain is decentralized does not mean that the system itself is decentralized. Like, what happens if all the validators in the chain who have the servers just incorporate and become a formal corporation? You have a centralized system.
I don't see that happening. Because
why not?
Because there are too many validators.
Believe me, if the Ethereum network decides to buy these validators and gives them a prospect, okay, we are now becoming a formal corporation, depending on your input, this is how many shares in the corporations you're getting. If you do not agree to be a part of it, we're gonna fork it and you lose everything. Because they can do that. All they have to do is get the majority. And that's it. You have a centralized system. Why not?
Because people would be so opposed to that, and it would create opportunities for other cryptos.
Why would people be opposed to that?
It would not be a competitive choice to make.
Why
and
would
the reason it wouldn't be is because it's decentralized.
All that needs to happen then is for this specific cryptocurrency to become so big that it dominates the marketplace completely, to the point where the cost of creating a competing cryptocurrency is just too big for anybody to even think about it, which is already happening.
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't see that happening.
I don't understand why you think that it wouldn't. Like, this is what happens with assets and with currency in general. Why would it not happen with crypto?
Because crypto is clearly something entirely new and different.
It's not.
Well,
that's the thing. It's not.
But you haven't demonstrated that it's not.
You have not demonstrated that it is different. I explained to you exactly in what ways it's just the exact same thing that the systems that we had thus far already are. The same way Folding Ideas demonstrated
that's
it.
Not what you were saying at all. For example, cryptocurrencies are deflationary. That's different. Cryptocurrencies.
No, we had deflationary currency. We had deflationary currencies, and I don't know if you are aware of the lost decades, which is technically an ongoing financial crisis in Japan, because Japan is suffering massively from deflation. Like, we've had deflationary currencies in our history, and we know how that goes. And this is the exact same thing.
Okay, so that's an experiential concern.
Yes. And the problem is that you're saying that blockchain and cryptocurrency could solve these problems, and they could transcend these limitations and become something new. And to this, I can only say maybe. But for one thing, how would you even envision that? Like, conceptually, like what would you do? I'm not asking about like a specific technological solution, but what would you do? What would you think you should do in order to ensure that this happens? And two, why would people in whose best interest it is to keep these systems in place and to keep these cryptocurrencies as simple replications of previous systems, why would they have any reason to actually change crypto into something that would be useful and transcend these issues? Because understand that for a person that holds the majority of Bitcoin, or for a person that holds, I don't know, 300 Ethereum, which is worth a lot of money, why would they want to change anything about this currency? It's worked perfectly in their favor.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to change anything about it.
But they would, because they, as people with the high amount of crypto, would have the biggest purchasing power and therefore the most power to influence the decisions on how the blockchain is going to change and transform. People with money have power, whether it's cryptocurrency or USD.
Yeah, I think there's truth to that. I think people who have a lot of cryptocurrency tend to be more forward-thinking and and have a higher degree of openness to potentialities. You just said yourself that maybe there was a solution in cryptocurrency, which is much more optimism than I was expecting to hear from you. And don't you think that in some form that's worth pursuing?
No.
And don't you think that the people who should be pursuing it are the people with concerns, such as yourself?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So what is the alternative?
What's
the alternative?
Well, the alternative to crypto? You mean like what
Yeah.
do we do about it right now?
No. Well, what do we do about anything? You're saying.
Oh, what do we do about global capitalism?
Sure.
I say guillotines. It worked once. Actually, it worked twice. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying?
Well, I just said that may be coming, but I don't know a lot of people who are in a position to start that undertaking.
Well, I don't know a lot of people who are in the position of undertaking the amazing dream of transforming the crypto space from the inside into the solution to the world's problems. Actually,
Well,
I know a lot more people capable and willing to implement my solution than I know people willing to work on implementing your solution.
Right. So maybe there are some steps we should take before we go to violence. Don't get me wrong, there are people who probably deserve the guillotine.
Yep. Not naming anybody here, because that's against YouTube's terms of service. I would not want to get a strike.
We're not advocating violence of any kind. But concentration of wealth, concentration of power, anything we can do to interrupt that is worth exploring, especially if the tools are all available to us. And that has never been the case with.
And I get it. I just don't see how cryptocurrencies and NFTs are a solution to any of that. Just because from the get-go, these systems, this technology was not designed with such a goal in mind. Like I said, Bitcoin, the patient zero, the ground zero of this entire space and this entire boom, started as a way to just create digitally scarce asset that could be traded. That's it.
Right.
So from the get-go,
are you aware of Binance Chain?
Yes, I am,
Okay.
and I'm also aware of the many issues with the Binance Chain. I don't know if you are aware of.
A lot of scammers out there and a lot
Yes.
of really terrible things happening.
Yes,
Also, a lot of really good things happening. A lot of
But
really
that's the-
smart people.
but that's the problem. Actually, I'm glad that you managed to bring us to this point, because this is also a very important aspect of this conversation. How do you distinguish between a potentially successful project and a rug pull or a scam?
Right. That's a good question. I think that Web3 means that wallet addresses leave a trail, and unlike any space before this Web3 space, you are really building a reputation. Your reputation is on chain in some form.
Okay.
And so
Let me
go ahead.
let me interrupt that train of thought, because this is something that is a sticking point to me personally. Are you actually maintaining a reputation, or is your virtual account maintaining a reputation? There's a big difference here.
Well, there is a record of what you've done.
There is a record of what the wallet has done. But, and this is important, there is no connection between the physical person and the wallet. There is no ID checks. There is no two-step verification process. And this is by design. Like the anonymity inherent to it is by design. So when you say that you are maintaining a reputation, are you maintaining the reputation, or is your digital avatar maintaining a reputation? And if so, I can create 700 of these avatars.
Right, you could.
So
I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do think it's a step in the right direction. Because there are lots of scenarios where somebody could do lots of harm without leaving any trail.
But that's the thing. In order for this to truly be the way you want to envision it, in order for you, a physical person, to create and maintain reputation, and for you to have to be invested in that reputation, you would have to have that process of authentication, of tying a physical person to a crypto wallet, to a Web3 avatar, to this digital bucket that is everything about you. And let's not even talk about the privacy issues or the hacking issues, like what happens if your specific account gets hacked and like you've poured everything into it. Well, you just now stopped existing. Let's ignore all of that for a second, and let's just focus on this. There needs to be some system by which a physical person, is connected to their crypto quasi-real avatar that holds all of this information. And how would you even implement that system? That's step number one. How would you do that? And step number two...
sure it's coming. I'm sure there are systems of trust.
Okay, how?
I don't know. I'm not a programmer.
Again, I'm not asking for a specific technological solution. I'm asking for a conceptual one.
I don't know. Start thinking about it.
I can already tell you there is no solution. There is no solution that would be acceptable for the people in the crypto space, because here is the second one, and this is a big one. Crypto is anonymous by design. This anonymity, this aspect where you, the physical person, is disconnected from this crypto wallet, is by design. This is how this is supposed to work.
Right.
And this is what allows so many art scams to be taking place, because this is also what we have to talk about right now. The NFTs and the
wash selling.
Sorry?
Wash selling on OpenSea.
Yes, wash selling on OpenSea and
inflate the prices.
Yes, and just stealing art from people and minting it as NFTs. This is a big important point for me, because I think what has to be understood in this conversation is that there is no copyright on the internet. For years, we've been able to simply grab JPEGs, download them, and use them however we pleased. And this
That's not entirely true.
You're right. That's not entirely true.
Copyright as soon as you create something.
Yes, indeed. There has been a lot of situations, high-profile situations, where somebody.
Because we're stepping away from the conversation about reputation.
Okay.
I want to go back to just one point. The idea that there's individual reputations is one thing, but there's also the notion that there are communities of reputation. So there's a Discord group, there is a Binance project, there is something that is a group of people who are trying to use Web3 tools to create something that has an influence in the world. And you can see that influence in what they do, you can see it in their internet presence, in their social media presence, in what they are actually affecting in the world. So there are communities of reputation, and those are easier to track because they have a public-facing intention, right?
I can understand this. The problem I have with that is that this very quickly creates a mob sort of mentality where you are incentivized, heavily incentivized, to fit into a specific community. And how many of our inherent biases that already exist in our world are going to be simply replicated into this new environment with heavy enforcement of community guidelines and just behaving and like moving in lockstep. This is
it's a great point. I think we are creating exactly the kind of environment that will allow us to stamp out toxic ideologies.
But it will also be an environment that is going to viciously stamp out not only toxic ideologies but any ideologies that don't fall in line. Like,
what makes an ideology a line?
Sorry?
What do you mean falls in line? Because
falls in line
determined by the community.
Yes, exactly. Falls in line with the community. Let's say you have a community created on 4chan and it's a community of Nazis. In that community, being a trans person, being a leftist, being I guess even being vaguely nice to people is already stepping out of line.
So they'll become the victims of their own spiritual impoverishment.
That's a possibility, but historically, that's not how this shakes out. Historically, fascists have an amazing ability to be promoted and boosted by systems in power.
About a change in how humans literally relate amongst each other. That's why this is such an important opportunity, and it's why it should be explored. But go on.
But the adoption cost of this, like, we have now went completely outside of the realm of doing small steps and adopting this gradually, piece by piece. Now you're suggesting a whole-scale adoption where we just jump straight into this new reality, and you're now looking at like 50 years into...
Gradual.
Okay.
Right, because you can either get your sense of reality from CNN,
which I do not do. I do not consume CNN. Thank you very much.
Right? Because they choose how people disagree, or you can disagree in new and authentic ways between communities or within communities, because people will have disagreements, but they also will have achieved important things together. They'll be incentivized to reach common ground, which means they'll have to have those difficult conversations. And those conversations are not, those conversations are not happening in our institutions.
Okay.
I'm literally taking a class right now about this. I'm exploring this. I've been talking to people from all different backgrounds about their experience, about how they've been marginalized, about how they don't have the same avenues of success that other people have. And people of color, people of every sexual and gender orientation are finally finding a space where they can find community, and not only that, they can collaborate on projects that are important to them.
Okay.
And people who are open to collaborating with those individuals will be a part of it. And
but
people who aren't, they're going to be pushed out.
Okay, so. But we don't need crypto or NFTs for that. We've been able to do that successfully for a decade now. Like we don't need crypto for that. Like this has already been happening.
Not been successful.
We have been amazingly successful. The internet, by and large, has become a much better place, and in a large way, because these new communities that are created are self-regulating and self-organized, and they actually do hunt for malicious actors. I feel like we never needed the blockchain to be able to do that, and we don't. The other problem is that what you're talking about is this sort of like socially enforced paradigm where this happens and these like toxic ideas and toxic attitudes are filtered out by these communities that are organic and that have a reputation to maintain, and so they maintain it. But the problem is that requires a mass adoption of the technology in a much more advanced state than it exists now. So we're not talking about, but see, the problem is that there is no need for that, because you can just enforce these same principles and the same paradigm in a much more analog, old-fashioned way, with just simple regulations. Yes, you can. You absolutely can, because there have been
freedom of speech for one thing, which is give up.
If you don't want to give it up, fine. But I don't see a problem. I mean, I'm not from America. Where I live, I do not have a freedom of speech. It's not in my constitution. And I don't mind.
Well,
and
to me, it's something that's incredibly important. But
right.
I think we I'll leave it at that.
Right. I just don't see this as being like, I don't see how this system that you're proposing is any less destructive to this idealized version of freedom of speech than a much more ham-fisted, in-your-face government regulation style of achieving the same goal. With the exception that we know how to do, the latter we know how to do, we've done that before, we're doing it in many places of the world, so what the fuck do we need the blockchain for?
Well, I think the problem is that the institutions that we have are afflicted by systemic racism and other similar problems. And these new communities will give people an opportunity to have a fresh start with a new dialogue. And if you want to have voting rights, or if you want to rise to the top of an organization, you need to demonstrate that you can tolerate the diversity inherent in the community. That's a good thing.
That's a fantastic thing. Yes, we don't need a blockchain for that. We've been doing that in corporate spaces for years. I work for a corporation. I know how important diversity is. I don't get to be a racist and keep my wage. I just don't.
Well, it's not working so well over here.
Well, what can I tell you, man? I think the problem really isn't
organic discourse. Right. Am I going to pay more attention to some woman who has been paid by Pepsi to come talk to us about how we need to hire at least a certain percentage of this or that type of person? Or am I going to be more swayed by having a conversation with somebody organically in a Web3 space where they tell me about their own life and conclusions based on what they share with me?
I think that's a false dichotomy, because the alternative is also that you will also be swayed much more by a conversation, by a normal conversation, and by participating in a community in a Web 2 space. You don't need Web 3 for that.
Well, I think you do, though. I mean, look, YouTube is a Web 2 technology, and look how hard it was for us to connect.
Yeah, but Discord is also a Web 2 technology. And how easy was it?
Technology.
What?
It's built to interface with Web3 technology. It's true.
I don't think it's ever going to get to that point.
I'm just saying that you need to consider these other aspects.
I'm considering them, but the problems I constantly see is the fact that this technology, you cannot enforce mass adoption that would immediately skip to the phase that you want us to get there. And if we were to get there gradually, then it's way more likely that due to the inherent incentives in the systems that we already live in, all of these fantastical ideas are just gonna get corrupted into replicating capitalism at its worst, which is what we're seeing right now. And you're telling me that with this in mind...
We're also seeing the opposite. We are also seeing the opposite.
Right, and this is where we come to that argument of yours that with this in mind, you told me that if someone like me doesn't want that to happen and doesn't want this new space to be corrupted into that form, but instead to see it bloom into its transcendent beauty that we all want to see, then people like me should invest our effort and intellect into making that a reality. But the problem is...
thinking about the positive potentialities, right? Because
but
obviously we need to think about the negatives.
The problem is I have a limited daylight time. I have limited hours of time in a day where I can put my effort into something. I have limited resources, and I would much rather put my efforts into something I can actually see being useful on the scale of 3 to 4 years than put my effort into a glorified pipe dream. I'm sorry.
Well, the company that I'm working for has a 4-year plan, and it's aligned with my values, and it's also going to help me financially. And the people who are early adopters take a risk, but they also have a potential opportunity for a reward. And a lot of people who have felt on the outside, who have worked hard but have never been able to save money. And like I said, if you can't accumulate capital in 2022, you're fucked.
Oh, yes. I had a small tangent, but I had a very interesting conversation with my dad today, because there's this huge issue with Ukraine, of course, right now. And we just heard today that Putin is organizing and putting the nuclear forces on high alert. So there is a real tangible fear in the air of people who are afraid that we might be at the precipice of World War III, of nukes actually literally flying over our heads. And what and so he asked me, like, with all of us being afraid, like, shouldn't we all pack our bags and leave and just go to the countryside where we still have a house and just wait it out there? And I told him, look, I have a job here, so the opportunity cost of us just completely losing our livelihoods and deciding to just go and escape to the countryside is too high for us to risk, even though there is a real tangible threat of nuclear holocaust. Like, do you understand what that means? The implication here is that destitution and not being able to afford normal life in capitalism is a bigger threat than a nuclear holocaust. And how fucked is that?
Right. I agree.
Right.
I really do.
And I don't see how Web3 changes that.
We don't know yet, but it does introduce new technology that can be utilized in new ways if people are open to it. Obviously, it's going to be exploited to malicious ends. It's already happening.
Yep. Speaking of which, going back to for a moment to the art theft, because I wanted to get back to it and I wanted to talk about it because this is a very important issue for me. So I said that there is really no copyright on the internet, with exceptions. There are cases, high-profile cases, where somebody gets an image or like a video or material on the internet and tries to monetize it, and then is taken to court because that is actually copyrighted material and it's not supposed to be monetized. So that happens. But the problem here, of course, is that this is happening on OpenSea in broad daylight. People just stealing digital material, minting it as NFTs, and selling at a high profit. And so this has to be curtailed somehow. This has to stop. And
I agree.
People always tell me in this space that NFTs are a great solution to artists, that if artists just turn their work into NFTs and they are the first to do it, then they will be handsomely rewarded, and that's how you're supposed to do it. But the problem I have with this is, again, back to that anonymity aspect. How do you make sure that the artist who creates the artwork is immediately going to be the person that has that NFT? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Is like, let's say you save the digital picture you've been working on your tablet. Like, what is it going to automatically save to the blockchain once you're finished? That's not realistic. That's not gonna happen. And that's the only way this could possibly happen. Like, everybody would have to have a crypto wallet, crypto avatar, a Web3 avatar, permanently, all the time, 24/7, that while they are working on digital artworks would have to immediately transform into an NFT with a watermark of that artist. That's not feasible. That's not happening, my man. The hoops that we would have to jump through technologically to get there are insane.
I don't doubt that will happen. I also don't think that that's the only solution to the problem, because you have a natural copyright as soon as something is available on the internet. If somebody steals your JPEG, you will still be able to demonstrate that it existed prior to the minting of the NFT that it was stolen to create.
Yes.
Right? And there should be some way to demonstrate that it was you that created it.
Yes, but in that case, how do you propose this space can be prosecuted? Because now we're entering the realm of legislation and policies. How is it possible to enforce this process on the side of the legal department? Like,
I don't know, but I think there are a lot of legal students coming up right now who are really interested in that landscape.
Okay, but the problem I have also with that is, do understand that any regulations that would be a problem for these spaces would be met with immediate hostility from these spaces, and that is what happens. Crypto is supposed to be deregulated. OpenSea doesn't want to be regulated. Why would they want to be regulated? That's a huge revenue stream for them.
That's not exactly regulation. It's more like vetting, and it's more like verification of
ownership.
Creation. Yeah, verification of origin, we could say.
Okay, I get it, but like, you'd have to at this stage of the grift, you would literally have to force OpenSea into doing it. The problem is that the moment you force OpenSea into doing it, a new competing space will immediately crop up that is going to be just like OpenSea, except it's not going to have those requirements because it's just going to be continuation of the same grift.
Right, you have a lot of Wall Street traders who are just on OpenSea, just, it's a totally vulgar, trashy space, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not every platform is going to be like that. There's a platform called Marine Snow that is in the process of being developed, and it's going to be a music platform, and I assume they're going to have some kind of metaverse presence of some kind, but there's a rotating selection of music that you can listen to. I don't know exactly how it's going to work yet, but the platform is proactively certifying the originality of the works because they're curating it themselves. And that, I think, is the future.
Look, the big problem with that I have is that all of these projects immediately come on the back of a blockchain. They immediately come on the back of this crypto NFT idea. And I don't think that is necessary because we've had Kickstarter for a decade now and it has seen a lot of successful projects. I don't understand why you need those NFT projects for that. You could just set out a project on Kickstarter, get donations, and get the project rolling that way. It's the same thing. The only way, the only thing NFTs add to the mix are these speculative assets that allow early adopters to get filthy rich very quickly.
I mean, it's not that is happening, but there is a broader benefit that you're not acknowledging, which is that now artists have the opportunity to give their fans actual equity in what they're creating.
But they're not doing that. But they're not doing that. They're not doing that because NFTs, as they are envisioned, as they are created right now, aren't actually pieces of this digital artwork where the artist is actually selling the artwork itself, just cut into pieces. It hasn't happened, and it's not going to happen because there is no incentive for anybody to do it like this. NFTs, as they exist right now, are just URL links leading to.
I have non-disclosure obligations that I can't violate, but I'm telling you, this is going to happen.
There is no walk me through this. What reasons do you have as an artist to chop your art into pieces? This is my last resort. And thank you. I was workshopping that joke like for 2 weeks.
I caught it.
And what reasons do you have as an artist to chop your art into pieces and sell those pieces into your audience instead of just creating a link and minting it on a blockchain? And then that link just directs you to a server that you host. Like, understand that in this way, you can sell the same image several times over. Why would you not do that as an artist?
I don't know the answer to that, but the last episode of the Interdependence podcast I listened to, they addressed that very question, and unfortunately I was multitasking and I didn't pay close attention.
Okay.
But I will tell you.
Send me the link. I can add it in the description, I guess.
Well, I tried to send you the link before, but you accused me of shilling.
Oh, well, mostly because I didn't see the link because YouTube deletes links, my man.
All right, here it comes.
Okay, just send it on Discord. Discord doesn't remove links.
Discord doesn't?
You can still see the link to the stream on the screen. It's still there.
Yeah. Whoops, that's the Google search, but in any case, that'll still get you there. So, yeah, I think NFTs, for example, for making music is a brilliant idea. If somebody wants to buy a slice of my newest record, and written into the smart contract is that it pays royalties back to the artist every time that slice is sold, that's awesome. Not to mention that if we become really huge, then the value of that slice goes way up.
I understand. Okay, I understand. I understand that idea, but
Let me add one more thing. Do you know how much Spotify pays me for a stream?
No, but I do not doubt it's nothing or pennies.
It's 0.003 cents.
Yes, I understand that, but
and then whatever we make from streaming, we have to split 4 ways.
Yeah.
Because there's 4 people in the band.
Yeah.
So, it's not like I have anything I have no interest in preserving the currency.
Okay. Let me pose 2 things here. One is that, yes, I understand that the current systems that exist don't fairly reward you or fairly pay you for the work that you're putting in, compensate you as an entertainer for your work. I understand that, and that's true. That's why I don't do YouTube for a living. That's why I do YouTube as a thing with friends and as a hobby, and I have a normal regular work. And that's what I tell everybody. Do not become a streamer. Do not think about becoming an influencer. Get a normal job. Also maybe do it as a hobby. But there's
a difference between being a content creator and being an artist.
Yeah.
If you're an artist, then you're trying to make a record of existence that people can look to as deeply insightful, essentially, into the human condition and the human experience.
Yes.
And to do that, you need to devote a lot of time and energy to your craft.
Long
time ago.
My entire family is comprised of artists. I know the pain very well. My brother is an artist. My dad is an artist. I am aware of how this works. Yes.
So maybe that's part of your opposition to the NFT art space.
No, because I myself do not see myself as an artist. I didn't really go in that direction. And there is what I think you're implying, which is that I am accustomed to the traditional ways artists operate, and so I am against this new wave of doing artistry. It's actually quite the opposite. I know that these people in my family are similarly to you, treated unfairly and not compensated fairly for their work. Absolutely not. And I would love for them to find a way and an avenue to express themselves artistically and be fairly compensated. However, I do not see the NFTs as a real, tangible way to achieve that goal. I don't think that's a real solution to that problem. I don't think that's that space.
Different avenue?
Yes, I see a very different avenue. Are you ready to hear it? So first, we get rid of capitalism. Step 2, we replace it with socialism. Step 3, we make artists public workers. They are compensated by the state. Solved.
Well, maybe we'll get there someday if it's what people want.
It's easier to get there than to transform NFTs into what you want them to do.
So you're saying that the adoption of NFTs, mass adoption of NFTs, and this whole new paradigm will preclude, certainly, this other ideal vision that you have?
Preclude.
Prevent. Because I don't think it will.
I think it is. I think it is a form of hindrance to that goal, because it's just another layer of capitalist exploitation on top of everything else that we have to deal with. And granted, you could argue that capitalism would find a way, personified of course, capitalism would find a way for a new type of exploitation anyway. So like, if it wouldn't be an NFT grift, it would be a different sort of grift, but it still would just be another grift. So I guess you are right in that sense, that I guess it's the NFTs conceptually may not be the worst thing ever, in the sense that they're not hindering my goal to establish socialism as much as something else potentially could. I guess I have to give that to you. This is probably the first good argument for crypto I've ever heard. It's not as bad as something could have been. Congratulations.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right. I really think it's true. I just lost my train of thought.
You were just so shocked by the idea that I actually agreed with you on something.
I literally was. Oh my goodness.
Try to get your train of thought back, and I think we're going to be trying to wrap this up, because it's... We have been talking for a while. I think we managed to get something good. I hope that this will give some value to people who listen to it. So let's maybe try to get one other subject, if you can think of it, or we can...
Yeah, I thought it was a great conversation, and I think that if we were to have more Web3 communities, whether it was because of NFTs, cryptocurrency, or really anything, then that would counteract this capitalist force that is constantly trying to separate people, because capitalism doesn't want discourse. Capitalism wants everybody to watch the same TV shows and the same commercials and the same news networks. But this technology, I think, is enabling people to adopt Web3 communities, which means that they'll be having more of these types of conversations, which I hope will be a good thing. I really think it will, because I think capitalism has been deliberately separating people in order to concentrate wealth more and more, and it's reached a breaking point. So that's kind of my final thought. I thought you made some good points, and I thought this was generally a great chat.
Well, for my final thought, I still honestly don't see how these crypto ideas, the NFTs, crypto, actually serve as a counterbalance to capitalism. The best you can say about it, people have now found out that I have been doing a stream. The worst thing that people can, the best argument that you can make about it is that you could that this is not the worst grift imaginable, but I guess that's about
I love
it.
That, because that folding ideas video really makes it sound like it is, and it brings up a lot of valid concerns, but it draws a conclusion.
I agree. It is starkly apocalyptic, and I'm getting the sense that even Dan himself didn't envision that video as being as darkly apocalyptic as it turned out to be. I think people imbued that video with so much fear and anxiety and so much just frustration about this being foisted on them, that they turn this video into this amazing, like, darkly apocalyptic vision, which it's not. It was just Dan explaining all the ins and outs of this space as he understands them. Because Dan is not a crypto analyst. He's not even a specialist in technology. Dan is a media critic. I don't know if you've watched other of his videos. I have. He is one of the channels I subscribe to. And I like his videos. What he does is he deconstructs the narratives. And so what he did was he took the narratives of NFTs, the narratives of crypto, as this miraculous solution to world's problems, as this amazing golden goose that can deliver us from pain, and he deconstructed the shit out of that narrative.
He did. Well, that's probably a good place to leave it.
I think so too. Well, see you around. Maybe you can schedule to do it again sometimes. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, because maybe we could bring other people in, or at least I think it would be good if people were having more of these conversations.
Okay, let's finish this then. I think this was good. Thank you a lot. Usually I would probably try to end with like, where can people find you? Do you have a channel or something like that? But
let's not worry about that.
We're not doing that. I just it's just force of habit from the creators that I personally watch.
We can follow up in the Discord chat and maybe we'll figure something out for this.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Jakyl. This was you, and this was M&M, and